Hello, my name is Margus Pedaste. I am professor of education and technology at the University of Tartu in Estonia. And I am also the person who is in charge of leading the committee that approves professional standards of teachers in Estonia. And today I'm happy to give you some insight about professional standards for teachers have been developed and used in Estonia. So we hope to find an answer to the question, how could professional standards be used in order to make professional development a real component of the teaching profession all along the career. First, I can start from this that the professional standards from Estonia are used since 2005. But in 2005 there was developed only one standard for teachers. And in this case it didn't give good support for teachers' continuous professional development, but mainly to designing teacher education programs at the universities. Later, in 2011, we started to develop a new system of standards. And nowadays, we have four different teacher standards. These are called teacher level 6, teacher level 7, senior teacher level 7, and master teacher level 8. The levels are in line with the European framework of qualifications, EQF, so that the 8 level is the highest, and in comparison with the educational qualification levels, it is comparable with the doctoral studies level. In Estonia, what is also important is that most of the teachers' education is at the level of master studies. And actually all the teachers, formal education is provided in universities. All the subject teachers need to have master degree, and only kindergarten teachers and vocational teachers might have bachelor degree. And this is also the reason why actually kindergarten teachers usually will get the professional license on the level 6, and all the subject teachers get it on level 7. So about those four standards of teachers, we see that there are 7 different goals why these standards have been developed. And of course, in case of some goals, we can say that we have really achieved what was expected. In some cases, it is not so good. First, the standards have been developed for evaluation of competency of the people, including self-evaluation, so that we expect that in schools and kindergartens, teachers will continuously every year assess their competencies and find their professional development needs and develop them according to these. Of course, in this case, the standards have at least 6 compulsory competencies, and each competency is described through several activities. Altogether more than 100 activities that are expected in case of teachers. And of course, you cannot improve yourself in every year in everything, so that we encourage the teachers focusing on one or other competence for a few years. So also evaluation of conformity upon awarding a profession, and professional title will be entered on the professional certificate. Second goal of the standards is drafting, evaluation and development of curricula and training programs meeting the requirements of the labor market. 2 ideas here. First, the training programs the initial teacher education training programs are provided only by the universities. so that all the teacher education programs at the universities need to be in line with the standards of teachers. More particularly in case of subject teachers with the standard teacher level 7, in case of kindergarten teachers with the standard teacher level 6. But in addition to that, these standards are used to guide in-service trainings of the teachers as well. And in this way, the standards really are important in supporting teachers' professional development, even if the teachers by themselves do not analyze so often themselves against their professional standards. In the universities, for example, we have a lot of support from European Union, from European Social Fund, in order to provide teachers with free in-service courses. But in order to provide those courses, the universities need to design their courses in line with the teachers' professional standards, and often there will be operationalized the higher level standards, senior teacher level 7 and master teacher level 8. Third, the aim of the standards is also to describe the professions. And it is important for those people who maybe want to become teachers and want to be a clear, wide picture about what is expected from a teacher, so that the standards don't only describe the competencies and for different activities, but also what are the prerequisites, what kind of characteristics are expected in case of teachers, for example, high empathy and openness towards collaboration and that kind of things. Fourth, the standards are designed for career planning and creation of a basis for lifelong learning. And as I already told, this is maybe not achieved as good as we would like to see. So fifth, determination of training needs and planning of training, professional development needs, then drafting job description, sixth topic, and seventh, comparison of professions and qualifications. So what is important in developing the standards is that these have been developed in a team that consists of representatives of different important bodies in operationalizing teachers' profession. First, definitely there are involved teachers, so that there are representatives from Estonian Teachers Association and Estonian Education Personnel Union, but also Estonian Association for Special Education is represented. In addition, there are also represented the employers, the employees of the teachers, so Estonian School Heads Association, and also policymakers. Estonian Ministry of Education has been involved in developing the standards, and also the educators and researchers, so that in this way the standards can also respond to the recent developments in educational research all over the world, and also, because the ministry is involved, the policy at the national level. For example, we have in this way put now more and more focus on inclusive education and competencies needed to apply educational technologies. Now we also think how to provide better understanding about the differences of so-called regular mainstream teaching and online teaching, which is now very important due to the conditions we have had for last 6 months. So in short, we can say that the standards have been developed in order to guide teachers, schools, universities, providers of professional development, and they really react on the changes in the world. But about the implementation, it is not so clear. So that we see from our recent study that has been published in European Educational Journal, we see that we have succeeded in applying the teachers' professional standards for developing the teacher education programs at universities, both in case of initial and in-service teacher education. But it is not so good in case of supporting teachers' professional development in schools and kindergartens. For example, two numbers. The teachers who graduate at the universities will get now always a professional license, and it has been happened for 6 years or so, and there are more than 1,000 teachers who have got the license according to this way. But in case of teachers who are already teaching in schools, they need to apply for this professional license for the provider of the professional licenses, which is Estonian Teachers Association, and for that mechanism only a few hundred of teachers have done it. Also, we have 15,000 school teachers, about 8,000 kindergarten teachers, and about 2,000 vocational school teachers, so that most of the teachers on the labor market haven't seen the reason why they should apply for the professional license. Of course, it costs something as well, not very much, but one of their main concerns is that there are no enough benefits for them to have a higher professional degree. What we saw in developing the system of the professional standards was that on the higher level, especially on the senior teacher and master teacher level, we expect that the teachers are focusing more on supporting professional development of other teachers, research on teaching, development of learning materials, analysis that is needed in order to improve teaching methods, and so on, but it didn't happen. This is something that still needs to be figured out, how to support that kind of activities, because we almost lack that kind of career ladder in schools. Also, it was expected that the standards will support building that kind of career ladder. So the teachers with higher professional degree are sometimes paid a bit more, but their activities, their tasks, their job is more or less the same that it is in case of novices in teaching. And this is something that is still a challenge for us in Estonia as well. So, in our article about teacher professional standards to support teacher quality and learning in Estonia in the European Journal of Education, we first developed a model to analyze how the teachers' professional standards have been used. And we saw by synthesizing two different approaches that the final benefits should be to support teachers' autonomy and authority. And in general, it could be achieved if we really describe the performance by the standards. We found in our interviews conducted among teachers, school leaders, and policymakers that this is really well achieved. But the autonomy and authority will be finally achieved if teachers really also focus a lot on ongoing professional learning. And in this case, we found that only the providers take it into account, but not so much the teachers and school leaders in their schools. Also, we saw in the interviews that some schools really try to change the guidelines for teachers' self-analysis, so that these guidelines and forms are more and more based on professional standards. And the third aim of the standards, what we saw in our framework, is to support standing of profession. But in this case, we didn't see that teachers or school leaders or policymakers really perceive that the standards help to ensure the strength of the teacher's profession. So that this is really something that needs to be studied in the future, why it is really so. So what else? We see that we try to develop the standards, the system of standards, so that they would make possible the continuum of professional development of teachers, starting from the initial teacher education through personal analysis of the development needs in the career, and to provide also guidelines for in-service courses, and more or less we have been successful in this, but there are still some challenges to face. And in conclusion, what we have learned from their interviews as well that we need more formal acknowledgement of the teachers with higher professional degree, so that for example the master teachers need to be involved more in teacher education programs, in evaluation of other teachers, and in policy making at the national level, in research, so that their potential is not used enough. Also in Estonia it has been made possible because there is no anymore that kind of rule that you have to have a minimum number of lessons per week in order to be a teacher with a full-time position. So that you might have, if you are a master teacher, also let's say 10 lessons per week, and all the other time could be dedicated for supporting others and doing research and developing different materials. But this is not yet the case, and that's why we say that the main challenge that we still have is to operationalize the career ladder of teacher and to make it happen in schools and kindergartens. So I believe that this is the main topic, and we hope that you learned something useful, and you're welcome to read our article in the European Journal of Education, and all the questions are welcome. Thank you.